Hi there guys, welcome to another battle report. This one was a 3,000 points of Warriors of Dark Gods against 3,000 points of Demon Legions. It's against Jake here in Suzhou, who's making tremendous progress as a player. Going into this game, once I knew that it was Warriors of Dark Gods against my Change Army, I was a little anxious, to be honest with you. Warriors of the Dark Gods is not really a good matchup for Change. Looking at the lists there, you can see that there are a number of fairly serious threats in Jake's army. Lord of Chaos on the Manticore, the Wasteland Giant, the Wasteland Knight, to a point the Wasteland Chariot as well. And of course his core is solid as well. Whereas my my whole list is very evasive. And I was quite anxious about this game because just of the number of threats that Jake had in combat, I wasn't sure whether I would be able to evade him for the whole game. So I was anxious to see how the terrain got set out. So that's enough of the lists there. You can pause and have a look if you want to. Just a reminder, as I was watching another battle report the other day about the settings on YouTube, I tended to find that a lot of battle reports ended up being quite blurry. So if you see this battle report and it appears blurry, you can change your settings on YouTube so that you can see a higher resolution picture. It's just on the bottom right. There's like a little cog icon and you can change it there. So I hope you can see this accurately, but if not, just have a quick look there. Anyway, let's get on to deployment. Okay, so here we are in deployment then. I'm trying a different angle with today's battle report. I tried sort of like a bird's eye view thing, kept on having to stand up on my piano stool and take a photograph from above. Let me know what you think about that. Does it give you a better overview of the game? Does it not work for you? Anyway, so on to deployment then, and terrain. So we've got here a ruins, which is a great place for my igniters to hang out, because obviously skirmishes are great in ruins. Got a forest ended up here in this zone of the board, 2 hills here, and a field here. We ended up with the diagonal deployment scenario with a hold the ground piece in the middle. Now this gives me a real concern, because Jake can march his warriors up here and he can stand here and just hold this point, and I don't really have anything in my list which would be able to sort of slug it out with them. I wouldn't normally bring a Lord of Change in a 3,000 point list, but I was just I was just in the mood to run a Greater Demon, so I did. This is a particularly bad matchup for him though, because he has got the Ether Wand, which charges on a 4+, giving him 1 more attack permanently for the game every time that he casts or dispels. Unfortunately, Jake has no casting wizards, because Jake has quite a history of miscasts. If you put 2 dice in Jake's hand, you can be pretty sure you're on at least a 50-50 chance for a miscast. So Jake has had enough of that, I'm pretty sure, and decided to turn up today with no casting wizards, only a Wraith Priest. So he's not going to be charging up his wand too much, but there you go. Anyway, on the flank here, Jake's got his light cavalry, his wasteland horsemen, and then he's got his dogs here in the centre. This piece of template you can see here is his wasteland chariot, his giant, his wasteland warriors, shrine here, wasteland knights here, and then he's got his lord on the manticore on the side here. I've got my Harbinger of Change on his blazing chariot here. 1, 2, 3 units of horrors, Sky Serpents here, Lord of Change here, the other blazing chariot here, and then of course my igniters here. Now I won the roll to start deploying, and I really wanted first turn because, as you can see, I need to keep him at bay, so I need to get that first turn of shooting in as much as possible. I made a silly mistake in deployment because I left my Harbinger, who's got the Law of Witchcraft, up here, and I really needed him next to my igniters just to bolster their movement and increase their range even more, because I've been told that these can be quite deadly if the lore attributes can work quite well with this unit. But there you go, that is life. Anyway, on to my movement. Sorry guys, do give me a second to turn my brain on before I get going. Just before my movement phase, Jake's got his Vanguard and his Wasteland horsemen have come round the side here to threaten my Igniters. So that is Jake's Vanguard. I have no Vanguard. Okay, so my movement phase then. So I'm looking at this game and I am thinking that there are a number of threats that I need to deal with. I can't deal with them all at once, so I'm starting to prioritise. My first priority is going to be to take out the Giant. I think the Giant is easier to take out than the Lord on the Manticore because he has no armour saves and he has no ward saves. I'm also thinking the Chariot is probably an easy, quick win. This guy scares the pants off me, if I'm honest. I know that he's got at least a 3+ armor save and a 5+ ward save, and he's going to have some kind of nasty item that gives him a load of attacks or ridiculous strength, or something like that. And the Knights are quite a threat as well, but I think that if I can deal with these, I can send my Lord after the Knights later on. And the Manticore Lord, you know, he's got to make his points back. So he can wander up here and kill 10 horrors, and I don't care. The only way he can make his points back is to come after my Lord of Change here, and he needs to charge up his wand, which is going to charge slower than normal. And so for that reason, I brought my Lord of Change over here. I've moved my Igniters out of the charge arc of the Horsemen here, just so that I can shoot them from the side. And I've moved my Sky Serpents towards the dogs over here, chaff hunters. The Harbinger is relocated out of sight of the Lord there because I don't want to be throwing away my Harbinger. And the other units have pretty much stayed where they are because my opponent needs to come and get me, and there's no value in me moving forwards to meet him because, well, I'll die basically. So yeah, that's my movement. Okay, so this is the end of my turn 1 then, and it's not been an ideal phase. Well, I've got a 4 and a 6 on the magic phase, so I was thinking, you know, I'm going to get a couple of spells off here, charge my wand up. I've got the Law of Divination, so I've got Fate's Judgment, which is D3 or D6 wounds, no ward, no regen. I've got Look to the West, so I've got Stubborn, which is going to be really useful later on, I hope. Just making those horrors stubborn. If one can survive, it holds up a unit. I've got Unerring Strike, 2d6 or 3d6 wounds on a 4+ with Armour Piercing 2 and Divine. Really good spell, really like that one. And I've got the Portent of Doom. Roll a d6 for each unit and another d6 for each character in the unit. And on any 6s, you can stop them from charging, stop them from marching, stop them from casting spells, stop them from shooting. Well, that's not great against this army because he has no magic, he has no shooting. But, you know, if I got a couple of dice spare later on, then that would be good. As a, you know, charge up the wand kind of thing maybe. And then my level 1 wizard over here has also got the wheel turns, in which I can change the to hit rolls and the to wound rolls to 4+ and 4+, either for myself or against my enemy, whichever is better. So, I cast Fate's Judgment on the Giant, and Jake dispelled that with all of his dice, and then I cast Unerring Strike on the Giant as well, and Jake used his Crown, which is basically like a Dispel Scroll. So I got the Dispel Scroll out in turn 1, I'm fairly happy with that, but then my Lord of Change lost his focus, casting Look to the West, and then he didn't manage to get off Portent of Doom, and depressingly, none of my spellcast, well, the 2 spellcasts, I was hoping for one of them to charge, but none did. In shooting, both of my chariots missed the Giant. The Shrine here giving the giant hard target, so I was at -1 and at long range, so that's fair enough. Over here, you can't quite see them, they're just out of camera shot, but the igniters took out 1 Wasteland Horseman. Bonus. Big win for turn 1. Other than that, the horrors are out of range. That's the end of shooting, no combat. Jake's movement 1. Quick change of angle here, just in case you wanted to see it. I thought, I might sort of mix it up because I'm not entirely sure about the bird's eye view thing. So this is from my side of the board. And this is the other half of the board. Okay, so Jake's movement then. And the biggest thing that's happened in movement is this chariot that was by the building has made this enormous charge across the board. To my Lord of Change, which is a real problem for me actually. I didn't think that Jake would manage it. He needed a 5 and a 6 on a swift stride, but he got it, and that's, dice games, I suppose. But this causes me a real problem now because I need to dispose of this chariot in 1 turn, in Jake's turn. If I don't, that means I have to kill it in my turn, which means I'm not moving in my turn, which means that this giant can get into combat with my Lord of Change. And a huge number of my points are locked in this unit. He's worth 40% of my army. Were I playing competitively, I probably wouldn't bunch all my points together in one big unit like that. But I do just love Greater Demons so much. So I'm probably going to have to drop the Sky Serpents in his way now to give my Lord of Change time to deal with this. And I'm really hoping the impact hits don't screw me over either. Elsewhere, Jake has reformed and got himself into position for shooting against my igniters, and we're going to have a little sort of shoot off down here. But what I'm really happy about is that this Lord here on his Manticore is running scared from my 2 blazing chariot bolt throwers. Now the bolt throwers on these chariots they are quite nasty. They're strength 4 plus D3, so there's either strength 5, 6, or 7, and they do D3 wounds each. Ballistic skill is 4, but they're generally at long range, so they're going to be hitting on 4 pluses. But it's that D3 wounds thing, and of course with them being change, they're playing with his ward save because they can be divine attacks. And if they're 6 or 7, they're putting quite a dent in his armour as well. So I'm really glad that he is doing this, though. He's obviously getting a bit of cover from this one here. With his shrine, but what he's not doing is getting his Chaos Lord on a Manticore rampaging forwards and crushing my units one at a time, because the chances are, with the number of attacks that he's got, and the Manticore and the Thunderstomp, that he could probably crush one of these units per turn. And he could easily, turn 1, here, turn 2, here, 3, 4, 5, charge something else, 6 maybe. He's got to get into combat, and he's not doing. And that just means that I can deal with the chariot first, I can deal with the giant second, then I can come after maybe the knights or the lord or the shrine third. So Jake's really kind of lining them up for me, rather than throwing them all in my face all at once, which is fantastic for me, because that really negates the difficulty of the matchup for me. Elsewhere, the warriors are moving forwards, the knights are moving forwards. Jake seems to be focusing over here, all the points are over here, but of course this guy flies, so how is that going to work out? Anyway, let's get on to the end of Jake's turn. Okay, so as I'm making this battle report, I just realised that we didn't take a photograph for the end of Jake's turn 1, which is really annoying. This always seems to happen at least once. But not a lot happened, so I'm just going to use the previous photo, and you'll have to use your imagination a little bit. So, before I carry on, I forgot to mention the dogs made a charge on the flamers, and failed that charge and lost a couple of their unit through stand and shoot, even though they were being charged and at long range, and with the cover of the ruins as well, which is remarkable. The light cavalry down here shot off a single flamer, and the chariot in combat here with the Lord of Change caused 1 wound. He only got 2 on the impact hits, which I was really happy about. And then the superior weapon skill, toughness 6, and the 5+ ward save. He only caused 1 wound there. Depressingly though, my Lord of Change, who's got only 5 attacks at this point, but is hitting on 3s and wounding on 3s, only scored 1 wound back against the chariot. So he actually lost combat 2-1, but did manage to pass his leadership test. And that was the end of Jake's turn 1. Okay, so my turn 1 then. Not a huge amount happening really, if I'm honest. No charges, obviously, from this army. So what's happened? Well, the horrors have stayed where they are. The blazing chariot has more or less stayed where it is, because it's got this shot, threat, pin down thing kind of going on. The Harbinger has come up and hugged the hill. This keeps him out of the charge of the Manticore Lord. I'm wondering how long it's going to be until Jake realises that he needs to start moving forwards and that there's a nice big point sink here. Well, not point sink, but a tasty unit of about 400 points here. Double the value of these. So I've kept him out of vision. Probably the most significant thing to have happened is that the Sky Serpents have come in front of the giant here, so that he's going to have to charge them off, and then he's going to run into the back of the chariot and bump, he'll get in his own way, and I'm hoping this will give me enough time to sort this out over here. And the Igniters have run around the side here, using their superior movement. They passed a march test, so that was fine. Yeah, that's the end of my movement. Okay, so end of my turn here then. I got a 5 and a 3 on the magic phase, and no channels, but I've got a real problem here because my general here can't use his magic missile spells because he's in combat. So I cast the Portent of Doom on the warriors. They've got obviously the unit, and then the Wraith Priest is in there, and I did manage to get a 6. So that meant that they can't march and they can't charge, so just slowing that unit down a little bit. Jake managed to dispel Luke to the west. I was putting Luke to the west on this unit here, hoping that if just one of them survived with his inspiring presence on Leadership 9, that might hold the giant up a little longer, but Jake quite rightly dispelled that, and that's a reflection really of just how much better Jake is becoming as a player. He's choosing which spells to dispel quite strategically. Flamers down here killed another Wasteland Horseman. Exciting. Both bolt throwers missed the giant. Oh! One of them's on a 3 to hit, this one here, and this one's on a 4 to hit. Both missed. But, bonus, these 2 units here came up absolute trumps and took off 3 wounds from the giant. So, you know, you win some, you lose some, don't you? Depressingly, the chariot saved both wounds that my lord caused on it, on a double 6 on the armor save. Oh! So my general is still pinned in combat with this chariot. So I did a reform at the end. I asked Jake, did he want to reform? He said no, and then I did reform. So I just put a little more distance between these knights and my Lord of Change here, because of course I'm still in combat. I've not taken any models out of combat. So that should just make that charge impractical, just about, I hope. And yeah, and that's the end of my turn 2. And just a quick different angle shot here from the end of turn 2, so you can see the serpents here. This is actually after Jake's movement, as you'll see in a moment that these knights charged here. So just a different point of view. Do let me know what you think about the bird's eye. Okay, so different angle of the same thing you saw just a moment ago. The knights and the giant both charged the Sky Serpents here. That reform worked out for me. Just managed to convince Jake better to go after the serpents. And of course, the thing with the giant is that his attacks are random in a sense, that he rolls on a table, so he can end up doing amazing things or he can end up doing nothing. So Jake's brought these knights in here just to make sure that these guys get finished off. I think Strategic placement of the shrine over here, trying to block off shots. Obviously you've got the giant in the way as well here. So the Lord on the Manticore has sort of started over here, dropped himself here, then he's come and hid here. And this is, honestly, by now he should be in combat with one of these units and he should be rampaging. And the fact that he's not means that my Lord of Change is fairly safe, really. Because he could have just come straight this way and I'd be screwed. That'd be it, game over. So I'm really happy with the way this is turning out. Over here, the horsemen have reformed and the shootout continues. So yeah, that's the end of Jake's movement. I think probably the only observation I would make at this point is that Jake's kind of bearing his whole army right. And there are 1,000 points of troops just in these units here, or as good as. So that's throwing all his eggs in one basket a bit, I think. Anyway, on to the end of the turn. Okay, so end of Jake's turn 2 then. Huge turn really. Basically, the knights and the giants smashed through the sky serpents. Jake was right to throw these knights in. I'm not sure he was right to throw the giant in, to be honest, because the giant did nothing. But the knights got 3 wounds charge standard. Maybe it was 4 wounds actually. 4 wounds charge standard, something like that. They scored 6 points anyway. The serpents did manage to take off another wound on the giant before they popped, but that wasn't enough. But what was really important was that the Lord of Change finally turns up in combat, causes 3 wounds on the chariot. It only had 3 left, so it's gone. And that means that I can reform in Jake's turn, and I can either fly away or I can charge these dogs. I'm certainly not charging in this direction now that he's down to 4 wounds and his wand isn't charged up. So I've reformed here at the end of Jake's turn, a combat reform, in case I decide to charge the dogs, which I probably won't, but I thought I'd leave myself with the option. The shootout continued over here, but the horsemen didn't do anything, didn't do any serious damage, and that was the end of Jake's turn. Okay, so my movement 3 then. And you can see that the Lord of Change has headed off this way. Jake's whole army is headed this way, and in moving my Lord of Change and my chariot out of the way, that's created a big nothingness here, which is really playing to my advantage, because that means Jake's not charging anything in turn 3. So my horrors did a sort of a march, a wheeling march over here, and then this unit of horrors did a sideways move to create a gap for the Lord of Change to fly his full 16 and the chariot to fly its full 8. And this line of sight here, this is why I love Warhammer as opposed to other strategic games, puts these horrors just out of line of sight of these knights. The igniters here have come into the forest so that they can get soft cover in this shootout. They're not at long range, but if Jake comes into the forest, of course he takes dangerous terrain because he's cavalry. If he doesn't come into the forest, then he's at -1. So that is using the scenery to my favour, really. And then this unit of horrors has just sort of moved around as well. What I'm thinking here is that I can pop off the giant probably with shooting. He's down to 1 wound, you can see there, and then I can start prioritising other targets with what's left of my shooting with the bolts, and then the other horrors. This unit here can only reach the knights, but better that than nothing at all. So that's the end of my movement 3. Okay, so end of my turn 3 here then, and you can see that I got an unerring strike on the Wasteland Knights. I was hoping to kill a couple more with the unerring strike. I did actually miscast, but I rolled fairly low on my miscast result. I'd got a Hellfire or Witch's Fire, the bottom one, whatever it's called, and an Amnesia, but I rolled a 3 on the Amnesia, so I didn't forget the spell, and I'd only used 4 power dice, and I've got the Soulbound Staff as well, so I didn't take any damage from the effect of the miscast. Having a single wizard flying around by himself, of course, means that the number of wounds in the unit is limited to the number of wounds on the wizard, which meant that the miscast result only got 4 attacks on me, whereas if he'd been in a big block, that would have been, you know, a good sort of 20 hits on the unit. So, Unerring Strike hasn't done a lot, but the miscast hasn't been a problem either. I only rolled a 3 and a 1 in the magic phase, so not a lot of magic dice to go around. In the shooting phase, the horrors did manage to take out the giant, which was absolutely grand. The bolt throwers hit the shrine. I'm going for the shrine because I think it's an easier target. That's probably a mistake now that I reflect on it after the game. This is probably more valuable because the shrine can't do anything. But anyway, what I was thinking was if I get rid of the shrine, then I get rid of that annoying anti-shooting bubble. But anyway, both hit and both failed to wound. Very depressing. Over here, the Flamers took out 2 of the Wasteland Horsemen who passed their leadership test. So I've pretty much won this shootout now. And what I'm thinking down here is finish this one off next turn and then come after the Warhounds. So this unit didn't start off very well, but really seems to be winning this little kind of skirmish battle that's going on in this little square at the bottom of the board. So yeah, not a bad turn. Okay, so this is the end of Jake's movement, and it's the end of his turn as well, because he doesn't have any missile troops, he doesn't have any wizards, and nothing was in combat. It's a very combat-y army. So he spent the whole turn kind of reforming and reorganising, ready for a big push in this direction. He knows that I'm going to finish off this unit here, which means the dogs can advance towards the Flamers here. That's fine. The problem that I now have is that this big block of warriors here controls the secondary objective. And there's no way I can hope to push them off it and beat them in combat with a bunch of 1 attack, strength 3, toughness 3 horrors. So what I'm thinking to do is not so much win it for myself, but rather prevent Jake from winning it. And what I want to do is get these 2 units moving turn 4, turn 5, turn 6, just to get into the 6-inch range of it by the end of turn 6. In order to achieve that, I need one of these 2 units to get through, which means I need this unit here to commit to killing this unit here. To do that, I'm going to make this unit lots less attractive by making it stubborn, maybe getting the witchcraft spell on it or whatever, at some point. That's what I'm hoping will happen. The general continues to kind of cower and hang back here. Absolutely fine by me, no problem with that at all. I can focus here, maybe shooting at him, so I'm perfectly happy with that. So that's the end of Jake's turn 3. On to my turn 4. Okay, so end of my movement turn 4 then. So I've started to advance up here with this unit. You'll probably notice this unit's started a sort of slower advance here as well. They don't need to go the full distance early on because of how far away they are from the secondary objective. So I don't want to make it too obvious what I'm doing here. So just a sort of a slow advance. Keep Jake guessing about, you know, am I playing with range or whatever. This unit I have just kept more or less where it is. I think I just edged them over a little bit just to spread out. Chariot goes back here as well, just to add a bit more juice to the trap here. This should really bait him in. I'm hoping that he'll sort of think, right, charge them, reform, get after the chariot. So that's that. The Lord of Change has the Elixir of Souls item. It's a 1-use only, +2 to your movement. So he's used a 20-inch one-time swoop to get out of any visual arcs here, just so that he can cast spells into this unit. I'm not really keen for him to get into any combat at this stage because his wand is still not charged up. And the chariot has moved onto the hill here just for a better vantage point to stop this thing from blocking line of sight, because I have realised at this point that I really ought to be going after the Lord on the Manticore with my bolt throwers. So reprioritisation of targets, made a mistake earlier on there. Just before we get onto that, here's a quick sort of alternative angle shot for you from the end of Jake's turn 3. Okay, so end of my turn 4 here then. I got a 6 and a 3 in the magic phase. I got Luke to the west on this unit here. Again, making this more tempting and this less so. I got Fate's Judgment on the general, which caused 3 wounds, but then he saved 2 of them, but there you go. And Jake dispelled Unerring Strike. Then in shooting, the Harbinger of Change got 3 wounds on the general here, so that's a big hit for me really, because I think he's got like total 5. And the Flamers took out the last of the Wasteland Horsemen down here, so they are ready for these dogs down there. That is the end of my turn 4. Okay, so this is Jake's movement turn 4, and I'm really happy to see that these knights have come after this unit here. His Lord on Manticore has finally realised that if he carries on cowering, he's going to score no points, and so he's finally come out of cover and is making a beeline for charging a unit next time. Of course, if he's in combat, then he can't get shot at. So Jake seems to be heading off in this direction, either going for this unit or this unit. I think he's probably going to go for this unit. It's more valuable. It's double the points of this unit. But of course, that's a longer charge as well. So if that's what he does, he may fail that charge. He does, of course, have movement, 8, I would guess, with Swift Stride. He's reformed this unit here. Doesn't obviously want to get charged by a Greater Demon in the rear, although a Greater Demon, even with Thunderstorm, cannot take on a unit of Wasteland Warriors by itself. So yeah, that is the end of Jake's movement turn 4. Okay, so end of Jake's turn then, and you can see that the knights have ripped through this unit, which was fairly predictable. It's quite unlikely that any of these models were going to survive. Not impossible, maybe a 30% chance, but the problem that I now have though here is that the knights passed their leadership test, whichever, and chose to reform, which means that of course they can now charge this unit, and then this unit can move up here to block this unit from interfering with the secondary objective. This puts me in a very kind of awkward position, because that means that I need to either charge this unit on the side with my strength 4 chariot. It's not terrifying when you've got a 1+ armor save, is it? Or put a bolt down the side and hope to hit on a 3+, should hit, maybe get a couple of wounds off the unit, making them impotent against this unit, maybe. Down here the dogs charged, and the stand and shoot reaction cleared them off the board, so actually my igniters have done a cracking job down here. So yeah, that is the end of Jake's turn 4. So on to my turn 5 then, and I've decided here to just come up right next to his flank and to put a bolt down the side. I think this is the greatest potential I have to cause the damage that I need to cause. And then what I'm thinking is, if that doesn't kill them off, then when he charges in on the flank, if I get 1 or 2, that he's probably not going to pop this unit. It'll probably still be steadfast. And the general, because he's got an inspiring presence of 18 inches, because he's a monster, will hopefully keep this unit held in place long enough to get a flank charge with what I hope will be 2 knights left by then. The Harbinger, sorry, here has come down the hill. I'm backing off, but I'm not backing off too much. I still want to keep Jake tempted into this longer charge for a more juicy unit. I should actually probably have brought him down here just to make this more doable, but I thought that might be a bit too obvious and that Jake might then sort of realise what was going on. I've moved my Lord of Change out of the charge arc of these warriors because that is no way am I going to try and bait him with a huge 1,180 point model or whatever he is. And the igniters have come running out of the trees and are going to try and shoot some stuff down here. So that's the end of my movement 5. Okay, so end of my turn 5 then. I've got Look to the West cast on this unit of horrors here, hoping to make them stubborn in case he rampages through here. You can see that the bolt thrower has done nothing later on, so I'm really glad that I got that off in the magic phase. I've converged an awful lot of magical attacks and shooting from these flamers and some horror shots as well on the shrine, and managed to cause a few wounds on the general as well, because my attacks are divine. I think actually it was magic on the shrine from the unerring strike, and then shooting from some horrors that did the damage, and I think the flamers took a couple of wounds off the general. So that's looking pretty good though. I think the general at this point is now down to like only 1 or 2 wounds because they've absolutely come up trumps. So that's the end of my turn 5. Okay, so Jake's movement turn 5 then, and he has charged at the chariot here with his lord, which is what I hoped he would do, but he's failed the charge. And what ended up happening then is that he's ended up right in between these 2 units. Now, he's also charged on the flank over here, and because he's got so many knights left, that means he's going to rip through this unit here, although he is going to either have to reform and head off this way, overrun and head off this way, or reform to face me, and then of course I can then charge him either in the flank or the rear. But this is a real blessing, because what it means is that if I move this chariot behind the hill, this model can't charge, which means that these models can't charge, which means that I can just about get into the range of this secondary objective as long as I don't kill this Lord on Manticore. First time in my life I've ever not wanted to kill my opponent's general. So yeah, that's Jake's movement phase. Anyway, a failed charge and a charge on the flank. I think he's realised that I've no interest in charging him here, so he's just sort of looking this way so that he can perhaps threaten this unit. But that's not going to be an issue now, as long as I let this guy live. So funny twist of events there. That's the end of Jake's movement 5. Okay, so end of Jake's turn 5 then. And remarkably, you can see that he only managed to get 5 wounds on these horrors, which means that I have 1 full rank and Jake has no rank. So although I lose combat by charge, flank, bunch of kills, standard, I'm steadfast on a 9, as my general's just in 18 inches on this horrors on the side here. So that means that this unit holds, which means that this unit is going to get locked up. Although, of course, what's going to happen is that he's going to finish this unit off in my turn, which means he'll be able to charge this unit in his turn. So that's going to force me to come in on the side here with this chariot in my turn and hope that it can survive long enough to hold this unit in place so that they can't charge this unit later on. So that's the end, anyway, of Jake's turn 5. So my movement turn 6 then, and you can see that the Blazing Chariot has charged on the flank here, so I've got at least 2 combat points there. I'm thinking if I put Luke to the west on him, then he's going to be stubborn even though this unit will die and take a load of combat points, and that might just keep him pinned down. Over here, the horrors have advanced to within 6 inches of the secondary objective here, 1 inch there, so that just worked out nicely. And the Harbinger has gone to hide behind the hill, which means that this guy can't charge out of the way of this unit charging my horrors. So it's a funny twisted event, but it has kind of worked out for me. The Lord of Change has come over here. He can't target these knights because they're locked in combat. He doesn't want to target the Lord on Manticore, so he's just going to do some unerring strikes and some shooting from the Igniters on this unit here, see if we can maybe get a few points. Doubt it, but sometimes it's strategically best to let some units underperform for the points at the end of the game. So, end of my turn then, and you can see that the horrors, only 3 died because of course he only had 2 knights in combat. He did 2 wounds on the chariot as well, but remarkably they passed their leadership test, and the chariot had received a look to the west from the generals, so the chariot was stubborn. So that means of course that Jake is locked in combat here for his turn 6, which means he's not charging this unit. General and the Flamers killed off a couple of warriors, didn't matter. That's the end of my turn 6. So Jake's turn 6 here, he did actually do a combat reform at the end of the last combat to get more of the knights in combat with the chariot here, trying to get the points from both units here, hoping that this one knight rather can dispose 2 horrors, which should be fairly easy for him. There's nothing that the general can do, and he's not under any threat from any more shooting attacks, so he simply stands still. Likewise with the warriors, staking their claim on the middle ground. So that's the end of Jake's movement turn 6. And this is just a different viewpoint of the end of Jake's movement phase from my side of the board. So end of Jake's turn 6 then, and you can see that those knights have disposed of the 2 horrors and the chariot. So he picks up the points for that, but the secondary objective in the middle here is contested between 2 scoring units. At the end of the game, it was a 12-8 win for me. But to be honest, this was there for the taking, really, on Jake's part. That Chaos Lord, he just blundered around too much early on in the game. There's a good 1,000 points in that model, and he never got into combat, and that's massive. You know, if you're running a character like that, he's got to make his points back. It's as simple as that, really. And so, yeah, if he'd have engaged with any of those units of horrors earlier on, you can see I'm down to my last horror unit. He could have killed 2, if not 3. And Jake's got his claim, which I can't attack, on that central point of the board there. So Jake could have won this game. The matchup was hugely in his favour, and he recognised that himself. You know, he said, I didn't play this character well at all. So fair play to him. But it's a huge improvement nonetheless. You know, throughout the game, Jake was making strategic decisions on which spells to dispel. He thought about reforming his unit to make sure that he got more troops in combat to get the kills. And 12-8 really is huge progress from his early games when it was, you know, sort of 20-0. 19-1, 18-2. So fair play to the guy. It was a good game. It was an enjoyable game from my point of view. Although I didn't really enjoy playing Change so much in this game. I'm going to give it at least one more game. But what I don't like about it is that yeah, the chariots, they're really powerful, and the wand, well, the wand never charged up, but in theory it works pretty well. But I just prefer the maneuverability of the lust lists. I don't even like the pestilence. I just find it a bit bulky and a bit unwieldy. And I like having a magic phase, so Wrath is kind of out. But what I found was that I had to be thinking 3 turns ahead, particularly with that secondary objective. I realised at the end of turn 3 that I needed to slowly advance towards it, and that's quite a difficult thing to do. It's a difficult army to play with if you need to be thinking 3 turns ahead, because an awful lot can happen which can change the state of the battle in 3 turns. And for that reason, I don't think I would play this list, or a change-themed list competitively. I may play a game or 2 more with it and realise that actually maybe I'm wrong about that. I'll give it a try and see how it goes. I might be, you never know. But yeah, it was a good game. A game that I think Jake learnt a great deal from. And I found out 1 or 2 things about my igniters and my chariots and so on. So yeah, all round a good day. And not a bad result really for either side. Certainly favours me more because the matchup had a disaster written all over it really for me at the start. But managed to play it. Got a little bit lucky from time to time, especially with that general getting in the way at the end. So there you go. Anyway, that is enough for today. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I would like to know your thoughts on the bird's eye view thing. Is it better to have it like that? Is it better to have it like that, but with action shots from different angles, sort of sprinkled in throughout? Do you prefer the old view, which was sort of a diagonal down the board? Love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.